So we're pretty much out of time because we got to get set up for the next segment, which I'm personally super excited about. It's going to be moderated by Kemp Harr, who has always been a huge asset to our organization along with all the news magazines. But I want to introduce the people that are coming up, and I know I'm going to kind of step on Kemp a little bit, but only because of the notoriety of the individuals here. Thomas Trissel, the president of Shernox, is going to join us. You can start making your way up. James Leslie is the president of commercial for Engineered Floors. Jeff Fenwick, who is the COO for Tarkett. Mike Gallman, who's the president of Mohawk, and Jeff Collum, who's the president of Shannon Specialty. So all of you that are making your way up, thank you for taking the time. I know how busy you all are and how you're being pulled in a million different directions, and it means a lot for you to be here. So we appreciate it. And now I'm going to turn it over to Kemp. Come on up. Did you bring notes?
No. All right, good morning. Yeah. So as these gentlemen come up here, as Jeff just said, all of these guys have many years in the business, so this should be very interesting. And they do have these questions in advance. All right, guys, this is going to be really informal, and so many of these questions I'm going to ask for volunteers, and if I don't get a volunteer, then I'll have to pick one, okay? Okay, so this first one is just introductions, if you don't mind. I think most everybody knows you, but if you'll just for a quick, and try to keep it under 3 minutes, but introduce yourself, and let's just start on this end and go down, but introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about your company, what sets your firm apart from the other players in the business, and what areas of improvement are you focused on in the near term? Jeff?
Great. Are we working it? Okay. Obviously, I'm the president and CEO of Shannon Specialty Floors. A lot of you know that as the company that brands and markets Technoflor. We're somewhat specialist in the healthcare and education markets, primarily in the U.S., although we do export some product, especially to the Caribbean, South America, and some in Europe. Our company's been around a long time, since 1921, and as most flooring companies has evolved into what we are today. This company started as a wood flooring manufacturer, refinisher up in Wisconsin, and for the last 25 years has been the leader in producing a product and bringing it to market that was a no wax, no buff product, and that is somewhat what's driven the company to the status it is today. Myself, I've been in the industry since 1986 with companies. I was with Ropey for 12 years, I was with NAFCO for 11 and a half years, and then I brought UPO-Flor to the U.S. prior to working out an agreement with Shannon Specialty Floors, Clark Shannon, to come to this company 5 years ago. We have a close relationship with Metroflor, which is actually the company that owns the brand Technoflor. We've worked with them for over 20 years. And from the standpoint of where we are today in the market and what we want to accomplish is that we work very closely with the architectural, end user, and contractor portions of the market to deliver what we believe is the highest standard product for commercial flooring, which meets the needs of sustainability, which is very important today and always has been to our company, as well as we believe we're a part of any kind of problems that get worked out in installations, on the job, on the sites. We believe that our partnership with our contractors is the most important thing to us, and what we bring from the value standpoint in that relationship with the end user is very important for us to have a happy customer in the end, regardless of what takes place prior to that and what their expectations are. So from our standpoint, we believe we're a really easy to do business with, friendly company. We value our relationships with our contract base, and from there we intend to improve on that by continuing to bring new materials, new types of materials to the market. We're one of the leaders now in carrying products that are non-vinyl as well as vinyl. basically at the request of what the end users have asked for. So we're looking forward to continuing our relationship with all of you in the future. Thank you.
All right, Jeff.
Very well said. I must say good morning. So, Ken, thank you. Jeff, thank you for the words. Thomas Trissel, principal was HPS Shernox. I'm glad to be here. We started 2013 with a Fuse dealership, and very happy for the partnership. So, HPS Shernox, Shernox, a company over 100 years old in Europe, established in Germany, mostly after the Second World War, was focused on leveling. Later on then got a little bit bigger and bigger. In the early 90s got acquired by AkzoNobel. AkzoNobel gave Shernox an enormous investment that enabled Shernox to actually reach out, besides the cementitious products, to invest into a patented synthetic gypsum. Shernox invented this in the early mid-90s, and while everybody walked away from white powder and subfloor straights, actually Shernox created the synthetic gypsum exactly for this purpose, with a high strength, low shrinkage, and in addition then later on very, very much dust reduced. So the question being answered here earlier about the OSHA regulation, I think that something like synthetic gypsum is really something for all of you to look at. So Shernox decided in 2011 to partner with us, Team T America, after I sold Sentiva, and we started this journey in 2012, literally. Now 7 years in the States, started again thriving a new business, entrepreneurial, and we're glad to be here and making sure that on both sides, commercial as well as residential, having our hands full to build the brand and doing this wisely as we did before.
Thanks, Thomas. Jeff?
Good morning, everybody. My name is Jeff Fenwick, and I work for Tarkett. For those of you that don't know, Tarkett's the world's third largest flooring manufacturer, headquartered out of France and publicly listed on the French exchange. Having said that, it's very much a global company. We sell products into 104 different countries and have 34 manufacturing sites around the world. And we have category leadership in most areas that we operate. We have three divisions: North America, Eastern Europe, and EMEA, which is Western Europe, effectively. So what separates us from everybody else? It's really interesting because one of the reasons I joined Tarkett was because of the culture there. And it goes below that. It goes to the value set that we have. We define our values as who we are when we're at our very best. And we're very comfortable in our own skin. We are who we are. We don't try to be anything but that. I always like to say that meetings in Tarkett, at least in our building, aren't populated by a bunch of multi-syllable MBA buzzwords. We actually are pretty plain spoken. Doesn't mean we get everything right, because we sure don't. But we know where we stand, and we're very candid. And we always describe ourselves as being caring, committed, collaborative, and creative. And when we're those things, then we perform pretty well. We don't always do those things, but we try every day to do those things. For me, I actually started with a company called Ingersoll Rand and did everything at one of their divisions, including being a multi-spindle drill press operator, to running operations, marketing, outside sales, product management. I really, at one point in time, thought that I was the definition of the Peter Principle, because I ended up running the plant. I left there and I went to a furniture manufacturer called Kimball International, which is the old piano and organ company, for those of you that are old enough to remember that. And I ran their contract manufacturing business, which was about a $500 million business where we sold capacity. So in addition to office furniture, we made most of the pool tables for Brunswick, store fixtures for Liz Claiborne, Nautica and Coach, projection televisions for Mitsubishi and Philips, high-density urethane signs. It was a really interesting business, because on Monday I could go to the RV show, Tuesday the Consumer Electronics show, Wednesday a BIFMA meeting, and Thursday the National Association of Store Fixture Manufacturers show. So it wasn't boring at all. But anyway, I spent 11 years there. I ended up running Kimball Office, which is their contract office furniture business, and then ultimately came to Tarkett.
Okay. And improvements you're planning to focus on in the near term?
I mean, for us, it really is around how do we try to simplify everything that we do. I mean, capital can be acquired and products can be developed, but the more complex we make this business, the harder it is for everybody. It drives our costs higher. It creates chaos in the marketplace. So we're trying really hard to simplify everything that we do.
Okay, Jeff, thanks. Okay, Mike.
I'm Mike Gallman. I think we spoke yesterday. I'm with Mohawk. Mohawk is a public company, about $10 billion. We operate in 165 different countries. Most people in this room probably think of Mohawk as a carpet company. We're actually a larger hard surface company than we are carpet. We have focused recently and will focus pretty much for the next couple of years on our operations and our systems. We'd like to be able to invoice you one invoice for hard surface and carpet and not have two invoices. Our freight situation and how we deliver to you and redistribution out of our redistribution centers. So really a lot of what we're focusing on right now, a little bit, I guess, what Jeff was talking about is simplifying our business, customer facing, how you interact with us. We're investing a lot of money in digital technology and how we process our information, and we want to be the most hassle-free company you do business with. That's our goal.
Thanks, Mike. James?
Sorry. I can't get started without saying a word about my friend Mike here. Mike, I want to congratulate you on your new position. Good competition, I believe good competition makes you better. Mohawk is certainly a good competitor. Mike is not only a competitor, but a friend, so I'm personally happy for him, and we live in the same town, so I know where he lives, so if I have a problem with him, I can go find him. I'm James Leslie. I'm President of Engineered Floors Commercial Division. We go to market in two ways in the specified marketplace. We go with J&J Flooring, which supplies fuse. We also go with EF Contract. Our residential division also sells in the Main Street commercial market under the brand name Pence Commercial. Engineered Floors is the fastest growing carpet mill in the world over the last 10 years, founded by Bob Shaw. I joined the company about 9 years ago. We had 500 employees. Today we have over 4,700. 80% of our growth is organic, 20% been acquisitions. One of the biggest acquisitions is J&J Flooring. We've invested in over 10 years, a little over $1 billion in soft floor covering. We use that money to build state-of-the-art plants and equipment. We use that equipment to make innovative products to solve your needs. That's nice, blah, blah, blah. What does that really mean? Innovation is nothing but a fancy word to say we want to make products that solve your issues, period. And we use technology to drive that. Mr. Shaw has a lot of sayings. I call him Mr. Shawism. And a lot of people don't know, Mr. Shaw was a left-handed quarterback. Played for Dalton High School, only one of two in the history of Dalton High to be left-handed quarterback. So he thinks left-handed, which is okay. He tells us the world is controlled by left-handed people. I happen to be right-handed, if any of you, I just want to, Mike's left-handed. So he would already be in at our company. He'd already be ahead of me.
And I worked for Shaw for 21 years.
But one of Mr. Shaw's sayings is, throw the ball to where the receiver is going, not where he is. Okay, and we keep that in front of us every day, and that's really what innovation means to us, is we want to be out in front, anticipate the needs before they become issues for you, and solving those for you. We go to market in J&J and with really three products: carpet, both tile and broadloom, LVT, and a proprietary product we call Kinetics. Kinetics is a hybrid textile product. It's patented by over 30 patents worldwide. It's growing very rapidly for us. What it does, it takes some of the attributes of hard surface, some of the attributes of soft surface, and kind of combines those into a unique product. It's growing very fast for us. We think Kinetics will be its own flooring category over the next 5 years if it continues to grow like it has been doing for us. Let's talk about the future. A lot of us have said sort of the same thing up here. Where are we going as a future? We all live in a complex world. We understand that. Your business is more complex now than it ever was. So I think every supplier is trying to do what they can to simplify their business. We're certainly going to be part of that. We have worked very, very rapidly to try to be the supplier of choice in the ease of doing business category. It'll be up to you guys eventually to figure out which one of us is successful, because we're all trying to do the same thing. I think that's a good thing, though, because I think that the more we can make business easier for you, the more successful you're going to be. And that's really what it's all about. And I think everybody up here on this panel, and I want to compliment, and I will say I'm honored to be up here with these guys, everybody has the same objective. But at Engineered Floors, we have kind of different values. We're a different company. We're a high-tech company with old school values. Our owner, our founder, Mr. Shaw, is 87 years old, if you don't know that, and he is at work every day. I think he took 3 days off last year. In fact, it was a total of 3, not counting Christmas and New Year's and those things. But another Mr. Shaw saying that I can share with you is, when you score a touchdown, you don't need to dance. Just throw the ball to the ref and go back to the sideline, which is another way of saying we stay humble. And he makes sure we stay humble as a company. And I think humility is much underutilized as a business principle today. I can tell you I have the unique privilege of having lunch with Mr. Shaw every day. Every day. And it is a privilege.
James, do you ever call him Bob?
No. And actually, it's a Southern thing, and I'm from the South, and you guys know he is old enough to be, well, I won't go there, but he's more experienced than I am, so it's a Southern, it's a reference of respect. But I can tell you, another thing that we try to keep in front of us every day is that humility, and by staying humble, we stay hungry. We want to be a good supplier for you, and I want to thank every one of you for the business that we had last year. We had a good year. I can't comment on anything other than that because we're on a panel, but we do want to thank you for that. Thanks.
Great, James. Thank you. Okay, first question. These first couple of questions, I guess, since this is an industry panel, we're talking about some major things going on within the industry. So John Ball, many of you may know, an analyst that covers the publicly traded flooring companies, saw a phenomenon last year, and so he took his whole vacation to study it and put out a report, and we helped him a little bit with the data. But he had pointed out that LVT has been a market disruptor, and 25 to 30% of the growth in the flooring business has actually, I'm sorry, let me get the fact right. The fact that 25 to 30% growth in the category represents 75. So in the resilient category, LVT represented 25 to 30% growth, and so 75% of the total flooring growth. So why has the category of LVT been so successful? What is it taking share from? When will it start to taper off? And at what share level? And is there potentially a downside to this rapid growth? Who wants to take that?
That's a lot of questions, Kemp.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, we could bite it off a little at a time. Go ahead.
I'll start out with a couple of those, and we sell LVT, but we're certainly not the largest LVT supplier on this panel, so I take that question with a little humility. I will say LVT, in my opinion, is taking share because it solves a lot of issues. Okay, it solves issues that you have. And so the challenge for the other, and where's it taking business? It's taking business from every category. It's taken from soft, it's taken from ceramic. Across the board, LVT is taking share. So if you look at interfloor competition, it really comes down to what does that product do? Okay, if it solves issues, it's going to grow. If it doesn't solve issues or causes issues, it's going to shrink. It's real simple. So I think in the other flooring categories, soft surface included, have to get more creative and find out ways for them to solve new issues to slow that growth, or either create a new category like kinetics that does some of both. That's, you asked about 4, and I think I
well, you handled most of them. So
okay.
I guess the question we'd still like to know on is when does this start to taper off?
Oh, I will say one other thing. Despite what our mill reps from all these companies say, it is not bulletproof. Okay, LVT does not walk on water. I have never seen it walk on water. It can't solve world hunger. So it is a good product, but it does have its limits. And you guys know what those limits are. I'm not going to tell you because you deal with it every day. But so I do think there is a limit to the growth. It will slow down at some point. After it solves the massive amount of issues it's going to solve, and it has already, I think there's certain segments that other flooring categories still is superior. So I think that growth will taper off probably 2 to 3 years from now. That's my own opinion. Obviously, some others may have different.
Okay. Go ahead, Thomas.
So in 1996, when I started Sentiva, I remember coming from Germany that I don't know how much hard surface was VCT, but I do believe us really putting LVT on the market it was a learning curve for the installer to go from VCT to LVT, like not taking a torch to an LVT tile or a plank. And I think this installation method was very similar in the end. And I think when you think about the enormous amount of VCT out there in the country, that LVT has overtaken some of this, or of course this square footage. The contractor or the installer per se is very, very happy today, is very happy today to install LVT, and I think he's comfortable with it, and I think it gives a lot of design options and an enormous amount of competition right now, so that again, we have a comfort level with the installer. He understands most likely what to do with LVT. Again, when we started, every vinyl manufacturer then eyeballed with it and saw it as a niche. Today it's not a niche anymore. Today it's the mass quantity we are looking for. So I think unless something is coming which is installer friendly, as design driven, if not more design driven, then I think LVT will, in my opinion, stay quite a while on the market.
Do what?
I think that LVT will continue to grow for quite a while because there's still a lot of VCT areas which the designer does not want to see VCT anymore and replace it with an LVT.
Okay. Jeff?
Yeah, LVT is really, and keep in mind, I don't have a long history in flooring, but LVT is really interesting to me because to your point, Thomas, it's been around for a long time. But what's interesting about it is I think it's just like this perfect storm. It gives you the best of all the worlds in flooring, right? So you get great design, you get great construction materials, an installation method that people understand and know how to deal with. And if we think about it, it really is the only product category that's had a regular cadence of innovation, whether it's the installation method or the materials. Because in residential, especially in residential, we went from LVT glue down, and then click, and then WPC, and now solid rigid board. And I don't see that slowing down. And digital printing on LVT, so a whole bunch of stuff that's going on that really is not resident in other categories. In terms of what it's affected in the residential business, I think it's had a dramatic impact on laminate and residential sheet. And in the commercial business, I think it's been, aside from VCT, and you're right, Thomas, but I think it's also had a pretty significant impact on rolled goods, carpet, as well as carpet tile.
Okay. Is there a downside?
Is there what? I'm sorry.
The last part of the question, is there potentially a downside to this rapid growth?
I don't know. From where I sit, I'm pretty happy with the rapid growth in LVT. So,
Well, I happen to write an editorial about this, which you'll read in our next issue. Part of the problem we're seeing, and this is, I'm not on the panel, but I'll just interject this, is that, yes, we've seen LVT take share from VCT, but it's also taking share from ceramic tile and hardwood, which sells for $8 to $11 a foot or better installed. And so what we're getting is we're getting less gross margin dollars in the flooring category because of its growth. So that's a potential downside. All right. We recently watched as Armstrong divested itself of the hardwood business. For years, we've watched the industry consolidate, and this move appears to be contrary to that, because in a consolidation, you have one company owning more and more businesses, and in this instance, you have Armstrong now just saying, we're going to be a resilient company, and then the spinoff is just a hardwood company. On this panelist, we have specialists and generalists. I'd like to hear from at least one on each side about which approach better serves the market. And so, Jeff, you've been kind of quiet, and you're definitely a specialist, so why don't you start with us?
Yeah, I want to go back to what Jeff said over here earlier. I also believe the technology and innovation in LVT still has a long way to go, and we will see a lot of growth. I've been in LVT Park for all the way back to 1986, and I've been amazed the last 5 or 6 years the technology I see around the world. We're a sourcer of product literally on several continents, so we're seeing the technology now is there. So I want to echo that before I move on to this, that I believe the technology and innovation in LVT will keep it growing for the next 10 to 15 years. Switch back over to the specialist versus generalist. Obviously, we are a specialist. We're one of the smaller companies in our industry. We sort of fit in that middle range. but the company is definitely defined by resilient flooring in commercial settings, and that's it. Occasionally we have a call and somebody wants to put our floor in residential, you can do it, it will perform, but we don't market to that. So what we do all the way through our process is specialize in commercial flooring that is easy to install, easy to maintain, and 20 years from now the end user will be happy with that. We hope at about 12 years they get tired of the color or pattern and want to change it out. Unfortunately for us in our business, our sheet good has been one of the longest performing products. Yesterday I spoke to someone here, it's 20 years that the floor's been down, the Technifloor product, and it still looks pretty much like it did the day it was installed. So for us, we specialize in making sure that when our people come to see the architect, the end user, or the contractor, that we're speaking to one thing we do, and we do very well. I have worked with companies in this industry in the past that do different things with different products, and it's a challenge, but at the same time, there's some very good companies in our industry that do it both ways. We happen to be a specialist. We like that. I believe we will pretty much stay in the niche we're in long term. I also have an 85-year-old owner named Clark Shannon, and some days he still wants to do things exactly like he did 45 years ago. But at the same time, the innovation that Technifloor has brought to the industry, I think from your side of it, you recognize that our floors install easy and they perform and you don't get a lot of callbacks on it. So we're there to be specialization people in what we do in healthcare, primarily in education. And I believe what it offers us is we have a very highly trained technical sales force that works very closely with you. And I'll go back to what I said earlier. Our adventure and our promise to you is we want to be part of the solution on everything you're working on. So obviously, I'm a specialist. Appreciate you giving me the first chance to answer that, Kemp, because we're one of the little guys in the industry and we are trying to do that well. But I also want to commend the larger companies in our industry, because I think we are fortunate in our industry that we have companies that can do everything and bring you that value also.
So there was a BASF commercial on TV which says we do not produce a tennis ball, but we make the tennis ball better. And I think this can really relate to Schönox. So no matter who's sitting on the panel or all the vendors out there who are doing resilient flooring or even textile carpet. So Schönox has set its goal, of course, to be a generalist when it comes to like an installer picking up patch at the distributor in the morning and just have to fill a hole here or there or skim coat, and then going up to extreme moisture related issues and other problems and challenges on the job site of huge commercial sites. And there's where we have a wonderful technical team who's traveling. We have a total of 5 people going out to wherever the need are, in addition to the technical sales reps we're having in the field. So when it comes to subfloor, the category I can talk for, again, when I was a floor installer first and then started being a manufacturer of vinyl flooring tile, I always was, back then, before LinkedIn and before social media, I was always kind of like sad and upset that there was no need for the really holistic view of things. So the installer had his issues and the manufacturer cared about his issues, and then the finished product was mostly then to the mercy of the end user or the designer who was unhappy or disappointed because on this sample board the end user only saw this little 2x2 inch sample, did not even know if this is a real wood or if this is an LVT. And I would believe to this day there's end users who actually don't know what they're buying. And I think the fact that the training of installers, the educational part we are giving, not just to contractor like yours, but also to the industry. Friends who are sitting here next to us are open for Schönox to go the next step and ensuring that the floor is only good if everything is good, included the subfloors. And I think a lot of people come to the awareness just in the last recent years, because before we had a very, very stiff piece of VCT and a lot was to hide underneath, or carpet where a lot of was hiding. So the movement from textile into hard surface, the fact that America reclaims more and more slabs was a trigger point for us to start Schönox here in North America. And I think the success shows that there is a continuous and even more higher desire for a better educational part, especially when it comes to moisture and very, very bad subfloors.
Yeah, Thomas, I would say you're probably a specialist, and Sika, your owner, is a generalist.
Yes, you could say this, but Sika bought Schönox for the fact that they're very, very much known as a huge $10 billion company. They're very much known in the raw construction. So you see Sika in bridges and tunnels. You see them on top of the roofs, windmills. All what Sika is doing is a fantastic company, but they bought Schönox for the fact that they wanted to get inside the building. And they've given us a mandate here in North America to force this with the contractor side to make sure that Sika is becoming, through the Schönox brand, better known in the interior finishes.
Okay. Now, one of the next two, and Mike, why don't you take this since you're...
Yeah. While we would be, I guess, defined in your definition as a generalist, we don't really run our business that way at Mohawk. Each of our operating flooring platforms, we have resilient, which would include sheet and LVT. We have our laminate and wood division, and we have our Dow tile, ceramic, porcelain, countertop division, and our soft surface carpet division. All of those companies operate semi-independently. They have their own presidents, their own R&D groups, their own product development groups, in many cases their own sales teams. We do share products amongst the operating sales divisions. So from a go-to-market, while we may appear as a generalist, from a integration of operations backwards all the way to R&D, we're a very unique, very specialized company in each of those areas. We own a lot of patents that many of our competitors share. The success of those patents around clicks and joining and different technologies that Unilin, for the most part, has had. So I'd like to think that we're a consolidator of specialty companies.
Okay, Mike, that's good perspective. This next question, I have several questions here, and I want to get through them in this time. I'm watching the clock here. So, James, this one's for you because you've just a minute ago talked about the billions of dollars you've invested in this category. So,
Sure.
Do you anticipate broadloom and carpet tile making a comeback? If so, what's your best guess on the time frame?
Well, you got to define what you want to say is, I think one of the things that's overstated is the death of carpet. Even though we're probably losing share on a total market basis, the shrinkage is not as dramatic as everyone thinks. Some of the square yardage shrinkage that is happening is going from broadloom to tile, which generally will reduce some yardage on a project just away. So I think that the market is certainly shrinking. We mentioned innovation in LVT. I think our challenge, and I touched on this earlier, we really have got to put innovation back into soft surface, and we're committed to do that. And I think if you come up with innovative products that actually perform differently than what's happened in the past, I think you will see some of that growth, I would say the shrinkage is going to certainly slow. We're growing in a shrinking market right now, so I think that I'm just going to say that I think carpet is still a viable product and still solves a lot of issues. So I think that there will be that interfloor competition is never going away, and LVT does bring a lot of innovative, and it's going to grow. But I think carpet will continue to hold a place in the commercial flooring business.
Well, I saw the CRI numbers for the end of the year, and in area, not in dollars, it shrank 4%, and that's all rolled up, all tile, broadloom, everything. So that's a considerable amount of share loss. So one question, I guess, to change it, and again, back to you, what is it that carpet gives that you can't get from anything else?
Well, slip and fall is certainly an issue there, and depending on what other solutions you want to put on it, the aesthetic you get, the softness that you get with carpet is certainly a viable factor. And from a price point standpoint, in most cases, and we'll see this when the economy contracts, it's a value play. I mean, it's your lowest cost flooring. So you're gonna have to look at all those factors and then work on the performance side of carpet to make it perform even better. And I think you'll see that what we're talking about.
Okay. Here's another one that's an interesting topic from last year, and it's playing out, and it looks like may eventually be resolved this month. We watched the debate last year surrounding the Section 301 tariffs. That's the Chinese tariffs, and most of you know there was a 10% tariff on all Chinese flooring that started in October, and they were threatening a 25% January 1, which was pushed to March 1st, which has then been taken off the table, and talks continue. So when is a tariff appropriate and when is it not? If tariffs are a bad idea, what is a better solution? Who wants to take that one?
You know, we as an organization support free trade. I mean, we've got places, as I just said, in 165 countries we operate in, but we also want fair trade. And if we sit in this room and believe that the Chinese are fair traders, we're kidding ourselves. They're out to take our position, global position as the leading industrial nation in the world. They have a internal edict of 2025. They want to be that person, and they don't care how they get there. They manipulate currency, they steal IP, they strong arm you if you're in that country doing business. And we have a big investment in the U.S. in people, plants, equipment. Everybody that's at this table has salespeople. And the Chinese, they'd like to be having all those people be their people. And if you can't get someone to fair trade with you, I don't know any other thing than today as a lever we have other than tariffs. So that's kind of where we stand on this thing. It's, if you want to trade fairly, then we're all right with that.
Mm-hmm. All right, that's a good answer. Anybody else? Okay. Let me see. I'm looking at the time here. I'm going to jump around a little bit because of listening to the roundtable yesterday. What is your company's approach to high moisture solutions? Do you see them as an important part of your business now and in the future? Who wants to take that?
It's certainly a very important part of our business. Like I said earlier, we get very involved from the specification to the installation of our product, and it's been our biggest challenge for many years with our type of resilient flooring. In the last 10 years or so of my involvement, I've had an excellent technical person that works with me, Tim Davis, that many of you know. And we tried from the standpoint of producing our product to try to ensure greater solutions and success also. And one of the things we've done in our part of the business for the last 4 or 5 years is use products like Thomas's product. We've searched out people, different areas. We currently work with a company named Wackel that some of you know and that he's in business. And we have a product we recommend, Sealer. It's a very simple roll-on type product, and our products will install fine up to 99%. We want to say 100, but there's just those occasions where certain things are there. So obviously for us, as long as moisture is known about prior to the installation of our product, we feel like the technology has come around to help us address that. So we don't run from that issue. We work with you very closely to make sure we have a successful installation. I still do believe it is the biggest problem in the installation of our products that are out there, but I am comfortable that technology and innovation has brought us to a point where we can support you on those jobs. And once again, the key is knowing up front what we're dealing with, whether it's the bottom floor of a 4-story hospital or the 3rd floor. We still require basically the same visual of how we go about that information. But we're very comfortable today with our products. We have changed formulations over the years in products to help with this, but I do believe the solutions that are out there now make it a very, very successful opportunity for us.
So what was the question?
All right. What is your company's approach to high moisture solutions?
I would suggest when the next trade show session next door is open that maybe those folks come to us and we show them. But I would like to give a broader answer, just not for the HPS Shernox folks here, as I do believe that as much tutoring we maybe need in marketing, that I do believe that one thing is difficult, that is to overcome nature. And moisture problem is a natural problem. It's not a problem we can just talk away with gimmicks and with marketing efforts. So unfortunately, the country I'm from, Germany, I live in America for 23 years and never want to go back and live in Europe. But I have to say, made in Germany means something when it comes to this. And all what it boils down to with moisture has all to do with risk management. So it's actually up to the contractor, it's up to the end user, and it's up to us, the industry, how we actually educate the architects and the interior designer, the decision maker. And therefore we have marketing development people on the road. They do not come to see you, but they are going every day and giving CEUs and lunch and learns and breakfast meetings and educate the architects. And I have to say, it's an enormous feedback we're getting from the architects to say, you're one of the only manufacturers who come in here and not try to sell something. You try to educate and help us to understand what we actually can do with moisture. So we love to partner up with vinyl flooring, resilient flooring, carpet flooring companies. We have a lot of people in Florence, Alabama for training. It's amazing to see how many manufacturers actually reaching out to us lately. We like to partner up, but I think moisture is really such a risk-taking business that I always have to say, people who want to come up with adhesives going up to 97, 98, 99 RH, we are very, very careful with what we do, and I think that has a little bit to do with the conservatism we are approaching this with. We have fantastic moisture mitigations, and I do believe that the industry, meanwhile, has really searched a lot and has really developed a lot. But it's really up to the individual person to make himself educated and have a good relationship, and then also understanding that when something happens, what happens then. So when we came to the market in 2012, I had the same thing what happened to me in 1996, 1997, where I made friends and those people said, Thomas, you know, I love what you do, come back in 2 years, I want to see that's proven. So again, Schönox is a 120-year-old company. There's other companies which are long time on this market, and they do this in a very fair and sensitive manner. And then there's others who, you know, just take the word risk management very, very highly, or not so highly, and just give warranties. And then when the problem occurred, then there's really when, you know, $100,000 could become a problem. So we stand behind what we say. We are good in customer service. Overall, what do we do in order to address moisture? I've just been in Arizona, and an architect told me that finally we understand and learn how to pour a concrete slab. So you would think that maybe this could have been happened 20 or 25 years ago, but you know, we are glad that maybe one day we don't need a moisture mitigation anymore because we're building the concrete slab right from the beginning the way it is. But we have a lot of billion of square foot in this country who are simply just concrete was thrown on the dirt, and we will always have to have some solution to this.
Okay. Anybody else want to take it?
Real quick on moisture, we think it's a huge issue, and it's not going to go away due to where the concrete is in the world. We have a 100% solution, 100% RH. It's kinetics, because we've measured it. You cannot tell whether the carpet's on the concrete or not. It's the same number, so it's virtually indistinguishable. But we've got 99%. A lot of people have 99%. Probably the only difference, we've looked at everything, and you mentioned warranty. Somebody mentioned earlier. We've taken our warranty down to 1 page. And you don't need to be a lawyer to read it. I mean, I have read what is out in the industry, and unless I was a lawyer, I wouldn't understand half of it. So we've tried to be as clear as we can be of what we're going to do, and it's all on 1 page.
So James, you're telling me with kinetics that moisture passes through it over time?
Moisture passes, you cannot, it's virtually, yeah, it passes through. When we test it, concrete with nothing on it and concrete with kinetics comes with the same vapor transmission. So it's virtually, it doesn't have any issues.
Okay. Mike?
We actually have a solution in our industry that we've all forgotten about: broadloom carpet.
Yeah. Yeah, it works. It does. It does. Okay.
Hey, Kemp. Just,
Okay.
I think that we all have solutions to it, whether it's from a company like Thomas's or internally developed solutions. But Thomas, what you said is really, really important, which is about the communication aspect. Because what ends up happening is that there's a problem on a job and the finger pointing begins. And the only people that are caught in the middle are you. Because the manufacturer is sitting saying, well, it's a moisture problem, and the GC is saying, well, it's not our problem. We tested it, we did everything the right way, and it becomes a he said, she said issue. And so communicating up front, especially with the design community, is really important. We hosted the IIDA Board of Directors, and we thought we were going to get some earth-shattering new product information from them. And so we said, what's the biggest problem that you have? Unanimously, they said moisture problems. And they just don't know. And so whatever we can do to educate the design community up front and make sure that there's discipline along the installation, that will alleviate a lot of the problems until we figure out how to pour slabs the right way. Pardon me?
Fuse technical, okay. All right, I've got one more just quick question, and then we're going to look to the future. So, and this is another one that's I'm changing around because of the roundtable yesterday. All of you may want to just real quickly, if you do, just give me 30 seconds or so, but are you planning to get involved in the labor shortage that is taking place today? And if so, what do you think your role will be? Any volunteers?
I'm always a sucker here, I guess. I'm always, just kind of goes back to what I said at the opening with humility. We're not going to try to tell you guys how to run your business and tell you how to solve your labor issues. I think that labor is going to be a shortage across the country. It's a shortage everywhere. I think we want to encourage and we'll support through the industry and the CRI, whatever efforts that we're doing. But ultimately, this is a problem that you guys are going to have to own and solve yourselves, or we think you're going to have a better solution to it than some, we're from the government, we're here to help you type solution that we're going to do as an industry. I do think we're all fighting the same issues. And I do think it's an issue going forward, but I think, and I do think one of the things that Fuse does offer is a group, and I'll give a shout out to Jeff and his whole team, is those best practices that you guys figure out, being part of Fuse, you're going to be able to collaborate, and those are going to be like a ground up kind of solution, which I think ultimately are the best things.
Okay.
I'll echo a little of that too. When you talk about labor shortages, you know, in this country today, everybody believes they have to go to college to have a good living and to have status. And, you know, a lot of people today go to college just so they can come out with a big debt that they spend the rest of their life paying back. We have severe shortages. In North Georgia today, we probably have in our hourly labor 150, 200 unfilled jobs on any given day. We have about 75 unfilled truck driver jobs today, and we offer signing bonuses. In fact, I just heard or read at Walmart today, for a truck driver, you get a $12,000 signing bonus and you get a $100,000 a year starting salary. And they still can't fill all the truck driver roles. So labor within this whole country is a real issue.
Okay. Forward looking, kind of Steve Jobs kind of stuff here. Where do you see the industry in 5 years? And if you answer this, I want to know from a manufacturer's perspective and from a dealer's perspective. Who wants to start with that? Thomas?
I'm glad that a Harvard professor is not running a flooring contracting firm. And when you look around this room here or many other rooms, the fact is that a flooring contractor most likely started as a family business. So I remember my dad's business, 60 years old this year. I mean, uncle worked in there, cousins worked in there, a lot of relatives, and I think you had to make it work because to keep your folks busy and give them a check or give them some money. So, and I think that is, in my opinion, it is to me very, very questionable if we can. I hear this more and more and more that those 55, 65, 75-year-old flooring contractor owner selling their businesses to equity firms, to me is really a huge question mark. Not that I'm against it, I wish everybody well, but I think that we have a certain DNA when we are floor installers. And we have the duty to give this further to some people. And this, in my opinion, is the shortage we have. I mean, it's not just that we have a shortage on floor installs, we also have a shortage on finding someone to answer the phone or to administrative work. And having a shortage, as you hear, a truck driver or even salespeople. So I think that it is all the network. It's all about how we can make our companies better, how we can attract, how we can create a culture so that actually people want to come to us. And I think that counts, in my opinion, very, very much for floor contractor. There's so many wonderful flooring contractors in this room, around the nation, who started in literally very, very either primitive or very humble and easygoings. And I think some of these contracting firms have become bigger than most manufacturers are today, or many manufacturers are. Like you just mentioned yourself, we're just a little company. I don't think that you are a little company, but I think that we really are in a situation today where we have to attract in this industry. There will be not a robot who will take up old carpet. There will be not someone who will glue the glue down for us. We will always have to do this ourselves, and I think we can only create better companies and attract them within the city, within the county, within the neighborhood, so that we can only take advantage from there. Otherwise, I think we will continue battle a long fight with getting labor. It will not end very, very soon. I think it will only become more difficult.
Along those lines, if y'all noticed on Floor Daily today, there's a company called Artesian Design Group that's just acquired yet another contractor, residential contractor in the builder business. Going to be interesting to watch now. They've acquired 10, and so we'll see what PE does with those companies. Anybody else want to take the question of the industry or
from a manufacturing perspective? I know all the panelists would probably agree the capital intensity of our business is increasing all the time. Technology is not cheap, so I think that there'll be further consolidation of larger companies, and that's just because the capital intensity is so large. You just cannot afford the investment unless you're at a certain critical mass. So I think consolidation in some form or another will continue.
Okay. All right, so this last question is, what is the best way for a manufacturer and a dealer to work together to service the end user? Give some examples of a recipe that works. Jeff?
Is this on? Yep.
Yeah.
So I'm going to give an example from another life for me. When I was selling, it was building products. And we wrote architectural specifications as a consultant, but we also were representatives of 13 product lines. And one of the things that we used to do, we would always call on the end user. And every time we called on the end user, we had it was in contract hardware, we had our contract hardware dealer salesperson with us. It was never about the projects. It was always about the day-to-day business. Because if we were driving demand and doing what we were supposed to be doing, the projects would come. But it was, who could we take with us from a dealer standpoint into the end user, because those end users have day-to-day requirements that aren't necessarily price sensitive, and they just need access. And they don't need some slick salesperson coming in and giving them donuts and expecting business back. They need somebody that can answer questions for them. And so we always went hand in hand, because we thought that was what we were supposed to do, is bring our channel partners with us and make that call, and it worked.
Okay. Anybody else? Come on, James.
Any partnership has got to work for both people. I mean, it's real simple. So when we're partnering with you guys, it has to go both ways, and we've talked a lot about what that means to both of us individually. And last night it was great seeing a lot of you in the room and just reminiscing and talking about what's worked and what hasn't worked between us. So to me, I think any kind of partnership we're going to have has to be mutual. If it's not good for both of us, it's not going to last long term. And that's kind of when I mentioned the old school way of doing business, that's kind of the way we want to do business.
Okay. All right, since we've got just another minute here, I've got another question for you. What are you guys' outlooks for this coming year from a growth perspective? And just to preface that, generally the flooring industry overall is usually about 1.5 points over GDP. So if GDP is going to be maybe 2.5, then we're looking at potentially a 3.5 to 4% growth. Does anybody have another opinion of that, especially in this audience, which is more centered on the commercial side of the business?
I do, from my perspective. We've changed our company around the last few years to brand everything Technifloor. So we've been flat for 1.5 years. We also are tied directly to healthcare, and there was a drop-off of spending there. So I think one of the things from our standpoint is we are projecting double-digit growth this year based on projects we have in the pipeline. And those projects, to go back to the last question, we don't do any projects that we aren't involved with the architect, the end user, and you, because you're the part of that we go to next to make sure we have success there. So we have a pretty bullish outlook on next year, partially because what we've done in our own internal company is add products and new materials, what we talked about with technology. We are one of the leaders in PVC-free or chlorine-free type products. We sell a tremendous amount of vinyl-based products also. But from an architect standpoint in the business we're in, you're all aware of that. So our forecast is pretty bullish for the industry for the what we will refer to as 2019 calendar year, from the standpoint of what we've done the past 2 years to position ourselves for this. I want to drop back to the tariff question, because I think we all know the big gasp of breath came when the 25% was sort of pulled off of the table recently. Most of our products come from South Korea and Europe, so we were not largely affected by that, although we do have products from China. But from our standpoint, I want to reiterate what was said across the table here, is that we believe strongly in free trade. And our company has been based on trade and importing products for over 40 years now. And from that standpoint, I believe the technology that's been available to us is going to help us with some of the growth we're projecting. From an overall flooring standpoint, when I look at it, I see it very, very difficult to grow at real rapid rates. But I think the consistency in the people in our industry is what's been important with the bringing innovation to you.
So when I can speak for HPS Schönox, as you mentioned the word Sika before, again, Sika is an enormous company, has a lot of solutions, but they wisely made the decision to leave us standalone. So HPS Schönox is a standalone company and will remain that way. There are discussions if maybe HPS Schönox shall overtake some of the Sika interior products, and that may happen. But I can just say yesterday Doug was on the stage here and he mentioned that we did business with 54 fuse dealer in 2018. So I do not want to put the horizon too big on. We were going to grow. Schönox will be here in 5 and in 10 and 20 years, and it will be way beyond me. But I want to believe that in 2019 our goal is to make a few more friends with fuse, making sure that we're bringing this 54, 55 dealers who do business with us, maybe up to 75 and 80, and this is what we want to work for. And otherwise, I do want to believe that our innovative products, after us just being 6 years on the market, so finally the architect, the end user, and the contractor down to the installer, everybody understands so finally that what does dust reduce mean, and what does a faster curing time mean, and how far can Schönox go with just better solutions. And I think just this will give us huge potential to grow the way we want to grow.
Okay.
I'm going to leave my comments to the overall business, because I don't want to get too specific, or 3 of us up here could be wearing orange jumpsuits. So I'll just talk overall. I think 19 looks pretty good. There's some tailwinds that feel like that this year is going to be pretty good. Obviously, over the next 5 years, we are going to go through a recessionary cycle. It just has to happen. Don't know when that's going to be, but I feel like 19 it's got pretty good tailwinds with it.
Okay.
And I'm going to say what everybody else said. Now it's a contest of who can speak last. We're very positive about 2019. What's interesting is when I travel in the field, it seems like everybody's holding their collective breath, and the words I hear is, we know it's coming, we know it's coming, we know it's coming. And even if it does, whatever it is, if we have 2 consecutive quarters of negative growth and we have a recession, it doesn't mean that it's going to be the next great recession like what we had in 2008 to 2011, 2012. It just means that we had 2 quarters of negative growth. That's it, nothing more than that. And so the year in totality can be still good, even if we have some bumps along the way. I just think that we have to remain positive and do the right things to continue to get better and be faster and to be more simple, and things will be just fine.
Okay. Well, let me thank you guys for being on our panel. I think there's people from the audience can tell these are leaders in the business and are doing a great job within their own companies. So thanks again for being on our panel.